Good morning, children.
Morning, ma'am.
Last class, we learned about different population growth models. Which were they, Steffi? Which are the two growth models that we discussed?
Logistic growth and exponential growth.
Exponential growth and logistic growth. Malavika, tell me about exponential growth model.
In exponential growth model, the resources are unlimited. So the population increases exponentially.
Okay, there is no limit for the resources, so they can multiply rapidly and they can increase in their number. But in reality, which is the growth model existing? Sania, in the present populations, what type of growth model is seen? Logistic. I am not able to hear you. Punya, tell me about logistic growth model.
It has different phases such as the lag phase, then acceleration and deceleration phase, and the asymptote phase.
Asymptote. And what do you mean by logistic growth curve or growth model?
It is more.
Yes, continue.
It is more realistic as the population
Now, what is here? What are the conditions? Here, the resources are limited, and there arises a competition between the individuals for their competition among the individuals for the organisms for the limited resources, and as a result, it exhibits an S-shaped curve, or you call it a sigmoid curve or logistic growth curve, that is considered to be more realistic. So all these we had seen except the slide, the R or the intrinsic we had already seen what is meant by R or intrinsic rate of natural increase, and some values are given in your textbook. R, as I told you, it's an important parameter. It will help you to assess the impact of both biotic and abiotic factors on the population. So depending upon if these factors are favorable, R value will increase. If these factors are limiting, or if these factors are not favorable for the organism or for the population, then you can see the R value will decrease. And here the R value for some of the organisms are given. Norway rat, it is 0.015, flow beetle, it is 0.12, and that too in for human population in 1981, it is 0.0205. So it keeps fluctuating. R value keeps fluctuating depending upon different biotic and abiotic factors, and not only that, it is different for different populations or different species, and it keeps fluctuating with the passage of time. That is why it is mentioned 1981, this is the R value. I had asked you to find out the R value for human population in India in the present year. Have you found out? No. Next period I want the value. So next period, tell me what is the present R value of Indian human population. Okay. So this was a slide that we missed last class. Now let's see about the life history variation of populations. Populations evolve to maximize their reproductive fitness. That is very important, or Darwinian fitness. So as per Darwin, you might have learned that each organism, or the organism, the fittest one is that organism which is able to reproduce maximum. So they will develop some favorable variations, and they will be able to survive in that habitat and will reproduce maximum number of offsprings. So according to Darwin, fitness was reproductive fitness. So each population will try to evolve in such a way that they can maximize their reproductive fitness, so that they'll be able to produce the maximum number of individuals or offsprings. So anyways, these individuals, depending upon the environmental conditions, they too have to develop. If the conditions are unfavorable, then there also arises a struggle for existence. Whatever it is, each population will evolve so that evolution takes place, and that is meant for maximizing their reproductive fitness. When the reproductive fitness is improved, the R value will increase. R value is the natural rate of, intrinsic rate of natural increase, the ability to increase in number or ability to produce offsprings. So the more the reproductive fitness, accordingly, the R value will increase. Under a particular set of selection pressures, organism evolve towards the most effective or efficient reproductive strategy. There can be different limiting factors depending upon the, already I told you, the R value can fluctuate depending upon the abiotic and biotic factors. Definitely biotic and abiotic factors are limiting. Only if the organisms are adapted to these conditions, they'll be able to survive and produce the maximum number of offspring. So the evolution, or they all evolve in such a way that they can produce effective or efficient reproductive strategies, or they evolve in such a way that they develop reproductive fitness. Okay. Some organisms, they breed only once in their lifetime. So when we discuss about reproductive strategies, you should know how different organisms, how often they breed. Some of them, they breed once in their lifetime. For example, Pacific salmon fish, bamboo. Bamboo you might have heard. So they reproduce or they flower only once, you might have heard. And certain others, they breed many times. Majority of them, they breed several times. Some of them, they limit their reproduction only once in their lifetime. Example, Pacific salmon fish and bamboo. Most of the birds and mammals, they are capable of breeding several times. So the reproductive strategies are different for different species or different organisms. So once again, I will repeat, all the populations, they will evolve, or their intention is to evolve in such a way that they develop reproductive fitness. Better the reproductive fitness, the better will be the R value. If the reproductive fitness is less, they'll produce less number of offsprings and the R value will be less. So under a particular set of selection pressures, so there are different limiting factors, both abiotic and biotic factors. So all organisms will have to face, or they will have to withstand these selection pressures. So under those conditions, each organism or each species will develop the most efficient reproductive strategy, and some of the organisms, they reproduce only once in their lifetime. An animal, example for an animal is Pacific salmon fish, and a plant, bamboo plant, while majority of the other organisms or other animals, like most of the birds and mammals, they breed several times. So the reproductive strategies are different for different organisms, and at the same time, some of them produce a large number of small sized offsprings. So offsprings will be smaller in size, but the number they produce will be large. Oysters, pelagic fishes means fishes found in seawater, marine water. Then, while others produce a small number of large-sized offspring, birds and mammals, they don't produce a huge number, but at the same time, they'll produce large-sized offsprings when compared to what I told earlier. So, large, like insects also, they produce large number of offspring, small size, but large number of offsprings are produced. But certain other animals, number will be less, but the size of the offsprings will be large. All these factors indicate that life history traits or life history characteristics of organisms have evolved due to limited biotic and abiotic components of the habitat. So wherever each organism is surviving, wherever or the habitat where each organism is surviving, there will be different biotic and abiotic factors that is limiting its multiplication. So they have to withstand all these, and in order to adapt to all these biotic and abiotic factors, each organism will develop its own reproductive strategies, and they also evolve in such a way that within that limiting conditions, they will produce the maximum number. They're capable of producing the maximum number. So those adaptations, the different adaptations which they have developed will help them to produce a maximum number within those limitations. Now next, we are going to learn about different population interactions. So you know that within a habitat, there are different populations of different organisms, and it's very important for the proper maintenance of balance of the ecosystem. They interact with each other. So without interacting with the abiotic and biotic components, organisms cannot survive. So there exist several interactions among populations. Organisms interact in different ways to form a biological community. So all the interacting organisms in an area, they constitute a community. Interaction between two species, when it is between two different species, you call it as interspecific interactions. When it is among the members of the same species, intraspecific. But here it is interspecific, between two different species, competitions between two schools or different schools, inter-school competitions. But if the members or the students of the same school is participating within the school, or you are competing with the other students of the same school, you can say it is intra-school competition. Okay. And when it is between different schools, inter-school competition. You are competing with the other schools in our locality or other schools in the state, then you can say it is inter-school competition. Okay, and hope you understood. So interspecific interactions means the interactions existing among different species. And some of the interactions that we are going to learn include, just a minute children. Children, here you can see different interactions, so names of different interactions: mutualism, competition, predation, parasitism, then commensalism and amensalism. So these are some of the population interactions. Once again, mutualism, competition, predation, parasitism, commensalism, amensalism. So these are some of the interactions existing among the different species. Now let's learn more about each of these interactions. First we will see the basic nature of these interactions, and then we'll be learning about these in detail. Mutualism. Here both species, say for example species A and species B are involved in these interactions. So in the first case, mutualism, both of them are benefited. Plus sign is used to indicate that they are benefited. Minus sign indicates they are negatively affected. Zero means unaffected. So the symbols are used like that. Positive means they are benefited. Negative means negatively affected. Then zero means unaffected. So in mutualism, both the species are benefited. In competition, both the species are harmed. So when there arises a competition, both species, between two different species, both of them are harmed. Then predation. Predation, you know, one will be in predator-prey relationship. One is predator, the other one is prey. Predator will be benefited. They'll be preying upon the other organism, whereas the prey will be killed. So prey is harmed. So one species is benefited and the other one is harmed. Parasitism. Here also the same situation. Parasite-host relationship. Host is affected, parasite is benefited. Then commensalism. In commensalism, one will be benefited. One among them will be benefited and the other one is neither benefited nor harmed, unaffected. And in amensalism, one of them will be harmed, the other one will be unaffected. So these are the different population interactions that we are going to learn: mutualism, competition, parasitism, commensalism, and amensalism. Okay? In predation, parasitism, and commensalism, the interacting species, they live closely together. So in predation, parasitism, commensalism, etc. The species which are interacting, who are involved in these interactions, they live close together. Okay, so we'll be learning about each one in detail now. We will start with the first one, predation. As you already learned, predation, one of the species will be harmed and the other one will be benefited. Predator will be benefited, prey will be harmed. So here you can see the lion preying upon the animal. In a broad ecological context, all carnivores, herbivores, etc. are predators. About 25% insects are phytophagous. Phytophagous means feeding on plants, eating plants. Phytophagous means feeding on plants. So if you take it in a broader sense, you can say that all carnivores, herbivores, etc. are predators. Herbivores will be feeding upon plants. They are phytophagous. So in a way they are preying upon, even though it is not an animal, it's feeding upon plants. And 25% of insects, you can say, they are also phytophagous. They feed on plants. If a predator overexploits its prey, then the prey might become extinct. That is very important point to note. Predator cannot survive in the absence of prey because it is depending upon the prey that they survive, or it is depending upon the number or population of prey that they survive. And if they are feeding on them and over-exploiting them, feeding on them in such a way that they are over-exploiting, excessive predation is being carried out, within a short span of time, the prey population will become completely extinct. That will affect, in turn it will be indirectly, or once the prey population is getting limited or it is becoming extinct, who is going to get affected? The predator. If overexploitation is carried out by the predator, the prey population can become extinct, which will in turn affect the predators. It results in the extinction of the predator. Therefore, predators in nature, they are prudent. Prudent word meaning prudent. I think there is a toothpaste named Prudent, no? What is the meaning of prudent? Why do we say predators are prudent? They always act with care and they think about the future, or they have, or considering the future, or they, with a thought for future, they prey upon these organisms. Otherwise, they know that if they overexploit, they also can become extinct. When the prey population, if the predators are over-exploiting prey, the prey population will become extinct, which in turn will lead to the extinction of the predator population. So they are very wise, or they take care, or they are very thoughtful about future, and we can say that predators by nature, they are prudent. We'll be learning more about predators. Once again, I will repeat. In a broader sense, or in broader ecological context, you can say all organisms, all carnivores and herbivores are predators. Herbivores, they are feeding upon plants, and even 25% of insects, they are feeding on plants. We can call them as phytophagous. Preying upon or feeding on plants, we call as phytophagous. And I told you, if a predator feeds on its prey and overexploits, if it is preying upon these other organisms in an excessive manner, or if it is overexploiting its prey, it can lead to the extinction of the prey population. And if sufficient food is not there, that can lead to the extinction of the predator population also. Keeping this, these predators are prudent by nature. That means the word meaning of prudent is acting with care and thought for future.
Ma'am,
Importance of, yes.
ma'am, I didn't understand how both are benefited. One is prey, right? So it is getting killed. So how is it benefited?
I didn't say both are benefited. In
The
Mutualism.
Okay, that is.
Both are benefited. We are learning about predation now. Okay. Predation, one species will be harmed and the other one will be benefited. Okay. In mutualism, both are benefited. Importance of predators. Let's see the significance of predators, or what is its role in an ecosystem, and what are the, or how are they significant in maintaining the balance of ecosystem. Predators control prey populations. They help in controlling the prey population and keeping them, or keeping their population under a particular level. It will not exceed beyond that, nor it will be below the expected level, so that the balance can be maintained. When certain exotic or foreign species are introduced into a geographical area, they spread fast due to the absence of its natural predators in the invaded land, that you might have heard. So when a new species, a foreign species which is not native to that habitat is introduced into that area, at that time, so when it is newly introduced, it may not have predator in the new habitat. Then what happens? It will start to multiply in such a way that it affects the balance of the entire ecosystem. They will keep on multiplying because resources are there and no predators to check their population. So they might multiply rapidly and they might cause an imbalance in the ecosystem. Example, the prickly pear. It's a cactus introduced into Australia in the early 1920s, caused havoc by spreading. So it was introduced in 1920s in Australia, but they found it very difficult to control their multiplication. They started multiplying rapidly. So natural predators were there at that time when it was introduced. So when natural predators are there in a particular habitat or in an ecosystem, they help us to keep check on the prey population. But if they are absent, this can lead to the multiplication or excessive increase in the number of a particular population, which can harm the ecosystem negatively. Finally, the invasive cactus was brought under control only after a cactus feeding predator. It was a moth, actually an insect. It was introduced into the country. So they found it very difficult to control them. But there are no predators to keep a check on their growth. And finally, in order to reduce their number, or in order to bring their number to the normal level, they had to introduce a moth, a cactus moth. And then with the help of that, they were able to control the population. The name of the cactus moth, you don't have to learn. It is Cactoblastis cactorum. Cactoblastis cactorum. It's a scientific name of this moth. You don't have to learn. I just mentioned Cactoblastis cactorum, and this was, they were forced to introduce this particular moth to control or to keep a check on the population of this prickly pear. So once again, the first point that we learned is that predators will help in controlling the prey populations. But if natural predators are not there, if predators are not there, then what happens is the other species will multiply rapidly and they can disturb the balance of the ecosystem. And here they have mentioned an example, that is prickly pear cactus. It was introduced in Australia in 1920s, and they started multiplying because there were no natural predators, because it was an exotic species introduced into that area. It was not a native species, and then they started multiplying, and this they found it very difficult to control their multiplication. Then they were forced to introduce the moth, that is cactus moth, which kept a check on the multiplication of this prickly pear, and the name of the cactus moth is Cactoblastis cactorum. And this usually happens when a foreign species not native to that particular region is introduced and they are not having any natural predators. Then in the absence of predators, that exotic species can multiply in such a way that they can disturb the balance of ecosystem. Second point, biological control methods. You might have heard about biological control methods. So instead of using chemical substances, controlling organisms, controlling pest organism and all by means of their natural enemies, natural predators. So instead of to control pest, normally pesticides or different chemicals are being sprayed. But when we adopt biological control methods in organic farming and all, we depend on biological control methods. There, the use of chemicals are limited, or no or limited use of chemicals is practiced in organic farming. So there we make use of biological control methods. The natural predators of the organisms are used for controlling their population. Biological control methods are based on the ability of the predator to regulate the prey population. So with the help of these natural predators, the prey may be that particular organism which is causing damage to the crops, a particular pest, it is causing damage to the crops, then we can introduce its natural predator which will help us to control the multiplication of those prey population. Okay. The prey population can be a pest for a particular crop. So in such case, instead of spraying different chemical pesticides, we can introduce the natural predators of those organisms into that area, which will help to check the population of those pest or prey. Maintain species diversity in a community. The third point is that they will help in maintaining the species diversity. So that is also very important. In a particular area, the diversity of different species also should be maintained. It should not become extinct. The diversity of the species is also very important for maintaining a proper balance of the ecosystem. By reducing the intensity of competition among competing prey species. See, the different prey species, maybe a single predator is there for these different prey species, and these different species of prey, they might compete among themselves for the limited supplies. So if the competition is too much, there is a tough competition between these different prey population, that might lead to the extinction of the weaker species. Hope you are getting the point. In a particular area, different species are there and they have a common predator. Say for example, they are having a common predator, and there arises a competition among different prey species for the limited requirements. So when the competition becomes tougher, this can lead to the extinction of the weaker ones. But with the help of the predator, we can reduce this competition and helps in maintaining a balanced population of different prey species. And here example is given, starfish pisaster. It's a predator in the rocky intertidal communities. Intertidal means, intertidal is the area above water at low tides, or area between tides. High tide, low tide, you might be knowing what it is. So in the rocky intertidal communities of the American Pacific coast, there is a predator that is starfish, pisaster. And in an experiment, when scientists on an experiment basis, what they did is they removed all the starfishes from that area. They removed all the starfishes from that area. That was an enclosed area. I told you it is an intertidal region. It was an enclosed intertidal area. More than 10 species of invertebrates became extinct within a year due to interspecific competition. So the point what I said is, these predators will help in maintaining species diversity. How do they help in maintaining species diversity? With the help of the predators, we can reduce the extent of competition existing among different species. If there are no predators to control their population, they'll increase in number and they compete among themselves or among different species for the limited supplies, which can gradually lead to the extinction of comparatively weaker ones. And to prove this, they conducted on an experimental basis, what they did was, they removed the starfish pisaster from an intertidal area, closed intertidal zone, And this starfish was the predator of several species of invertebrates. But when this disaster was removed from there, within a year, they could find that 10 species of invertebrates got extinct because of the competition among these different species. So if this predator was there, it will help in keeping a check on the different prey population, and this would not happen. They will keep a check on the population of different prey species, which will help in maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. Okay, have you understood, children, the points that we discussed? We learned about different population interactions. What are the different population interactions that we learned? Just list them. Mehek,
predation, competition, biological
second one I didn't hear, Mehek.
competition,
Competition, predation, then
biological method,
loud.
biological methods,
No, the different methods and the different population interactions. Two you said. Predation, competition. Who can help? Michael remaining?
Parasitism,
Pardon?
parasitism,
Parasitism,
commensalism,
commensalism, then what?
and
First one we discussed. Nandana, which was the first one that I told?
Mutualism.
Mutualism. So, in which of these population interactions both the species are benefited? Rijas, in which one both species are benefited? Mutualism. And tell me two population interactions where one species is benefited and the other species is harmed. Naureen?
predation and parasitism.
Predation and parasitism. And in which interaction both of them are negatively affected? Punya?
Competition.
Competition. And one is benefited, the other one is unharmed. Evelyn?
Commercialism.
Commensalism. So, and we learned about predation in detail. As you know, predator-prey relationship is very important in keeping a check on the prey population. And about the significance of predators also we learned. We learned three main points about its significance in maintaining the balance of ecosystem. Nevin, tell me one point, any one point, explain. 3 points we discussed to prove that predators they play a significant role in maintaining the balance of ecosystem. Any one point you can say.
In the closed enclosure, the starfish was removed.
Wait,
And the other,
tell me the main point. What topic you have to, or which statement you're going to explain, or which point?
the preys will have inter-competition to a point that some don't get the resources and some will be extinct.
Nevin, I hope you didn't, you haven't understood, I think, what I was trying to say. Gayatri, I'll come
They
back.
keep prey population under control.
They will help in controlling the prey population. So explain that with the help of an example.
In the 1920s, in Australia, when the prickly pear cactus were introduced, they mostly
They didn't have natural
predator.
predator. So what happened to their number, the population?
Population increased drastically.
They found it very difficult to control. And finally, what was the solution for that? They found out
They introduced their natural predators to the country, which was a moth. So it helped in control the number of the captives.
Okay, Nevin, you tell me what point you are going to explain and then give an example. Okay, one point, it will help in controlling the prey population. It's time for us. Okay. Nevin, tell me, 4 minutes more.
Now, the same thing which she said.
No, we learned 3 points. I'll give you a clue. Biological control methods. Tell me about that. What is its role? How do they help in bringing about biological control?
the ability of the predator to regulate.
Huh.
Something like-
No, in biological what do you mean by biological control method? We depend upon
The predators, they take care of, regulate the number of prey.
So in biological control method, we don't make use of any
Any chemical,
chemicals. Instead, we use the natural predators to keep a check on the prey population. Okay, another point. Anna, third point.
Maintain species diversity.
Yes, very good. They will help in maintaining species diversity. And how did the scientists prove this? How did they prove?
Starfish in the rocky
In the rocky intertidal area. Name of the organism?
starfish.
What is its name? Pisaster. And then what they did? It was a predator preying upon different prey populations, and then on an experimental basis, this pisaster was removed from that area. Then what did they find? What did they notice?
More than 10 species of invertebrates were extinct.
More than 10 species of
Invertebrates
invertebrates got
extinct
within, what was the span of time? Within?
in a year.
Yeah. What is the reason? What is the reason for this? These species did not have. Anna, we removed pisaster from there, who used to prey upon them. So no predator. So what will happen to prey species? They will. What will happen, Nandana?
They will compete amongst each other.
So what will happen? They will multiply and they will.
Compete amongst each other.
In this competition, they will. When competition arises, what happens?
They'll get extinct.
They will get extinct. The weaker ones, comparatively weaker ones, can become extinct in that competition. And the scientists found that more than 10 species of invertebrates got extinct. And the reason for that is they didn't have a natural predator in that area to control their population. Got it? A little slow today in grasping the points. What happened? The topic is not very difficult. What happened? Yesterday you had a holiday. That's why? Is that the reason? Still in the holiday mood? Next period, I want you to be a little more keen and sharp in listening and tell me the points quickly. Okay, Nevin? Okay. Thank you, children. See you next period.
Thank you.